For years, people laughed at Arsenal and Arteta.
Like, listen, I'm fed up with all their excuses anyway, Arsenal. No, I'm serious. Arteta gets interviewed after the game. Listen, he's a sore loser.
They said the team looked good, but didn't win anything important.
I keep saying to all my Arsenal friends, watching Arsenal is watching Netflix, you know. You always wait for the next season.
They called them soft, emotional, and too obsessed with control.
But what's the evidence, again, from the Arteta or this group of players that they've got that mentality to challenge? We talk about challenging for a title, but to me, in my mentality, it's about winning titles, not challenging.
In the beginning, they were considered a team that played beautiful football but had no bite. Now they're known as a team that relies too much on set pieces.
Beaten West Ham recently. Could they go to Craven Cottage and beat Fulham? They did, courtesy of their absolute ally, the corner kick.
Then the other narrative was that every time Arsenal get close to winning something, they fall apart. They repeated the same thing over and over again. Same old Arsenal. And Arteta is used to all of this criticism because as soon as he started in 2019, nobody really believed he could rebuild the club. He came straight from Pep Guardiola's staff, and people said he was basically just trying to copy his old boss. In the beginning, like I said, Arsenal were known as a team that played nice football, but had no power. Their project became known as an insult. It basically meant they weren't ready yet. But while everyone mocked, something was happening behind the scenes. Arteta wasn't just establishing his tactical identity, he was building a culture. All those Arsenal collapses slowly turned into lessons. Arteta matured as a manager, the team matured with him.
Made history again together. I cannot be happier, prouder for everybody that is involved in this football club. Let's enjoy the moment.
When Arteta took over Arsenal, he wasn't just trying to fix a football team. He was trying to change an entire culture. The club had lost its identity. The football was dull, the mentality was incredibly weak, and the fans had no idea what direction things were heading in. Arteta came in with a very bold plan. 5 phases to bring the kind of football that Arsenal fans are used to back to the club.
We've been preparing for this for years, I think now.
The idea sounded great. On paper, it looked modern and ambitious. It seemed that Arteta was trying to establish a style that would win titles in the long run. Having said that though, the execution of the plan, that was a different story. Arteta wanted Arsenal to dominate possession and dictate games through control. But the problem was that the players he had were not ready for that kind of system yet. They kept losing the ball while trying to build from the back, the center backs and fullbacks often panicked under pressure, and the midfield didn't always offer clean passing options. It led to a lot of cheap turnovers in dangerous areas. Then the pressing wasn't consistent. Some games, sure, Arsenal pressed like a top European side. They were very aggressive, they were coordinated, they would suffocate teams. Other times, they looked like the current version of Liverpool. Opponents would bypass them easily, and the Gunners just could not recover fast enough. Then there was the issue up front. When Arsenal did play pretty football, they couldn't score. They moved the ball well, they created good opportunities, but the final product wasn't there. So many promising moves would end with a blocked shot or just a terrible finish. And the result was that matches looked great for 60 minutes, sometimes maybe a little longer, but always ended in frustration. They would just blue ball their own fans. They would dominate the ball, but not the scoreline. As the seasons went by, Arsenal obviously got better. For example, in the 2022-2023 season, they played very attractive football and were getting results. They actually led the Premier League for 248 days, longer than any other team in history without winning it. They were young, they were fast, they played fearless football, and for months it looked like they would actually go on and win the title. But then came that final stretch. Some bad results, some injuries, and suddenly City did what they always do. They hunted Arsenal down. Of course, that collapse brought back the same old jokes. Oh, the same old Arsenal, they're soft, no mentality. I felt like it was harsh. They had really overachieved and their competition was one of the best versions of Man City. But there was some truth to the criticism. Arsenal played amazing football for most of the season, but when the pressure hit, they did crack. But while everybody was making jokes, the people with a brain could see that the progress was real. The numbers showed that Arsenal were improving in almost every category. They were pressing better, they were defending better, their chance creation was higher. Yes, they weren't champions yet, but the foundation was clearly there. And they had made a huge jump considering the season before they had actually missed out on Champions League football. They were very much ahead of schedule. And as the seasons went by, the biggest shift was actually cultural, not tactical. Arteta had changed the attitude. He brought in structure and accountability. Every player knew that mistakes would be noticed and that effort was a non-negotiable. Arteta wanted a team that was brave on the ball and very aggressive off of it. And of course, the current team, as I will get to later in the video, is showing all of those qualities. Recruitment followed the same logic. Arsenal started signing players who fit the system instead of just big names. And you could see the difference season by season. The squad slowly started to look more like an Arteta team. Inside the club, people stopped talking about a project because that word had become kind of an insult in the outside world. It was like basically saying that Arsenal are not good enough. It was clear to most people who were paying attention, Arsenal were building something solid. For fans though, it was hard to be patient. Watching Arsenal in these early seasons was like owning a beautiful car, but one that wouldn't accelerate. You could see the design, the quality, the potential, but it could never hit top speed. Because even as the team got better, a lot of the same issues kept coming back. Like in the 2023-2024 season, when they brought in great recruitment like Declan Rice, they still dropped points from winning positions. Every time they looked like they were about to take the next step, they would stumble again. And now, because they were getting better results, the expectations were sky high. So when the results didn't match the performance, the criticism was harsher. People started calling them too soft again, Netflix FC. The jokes really wrote themselves. But even during those painful moments, like what happened in the 2023-2024 season, like what happened last season, you could see things starting to turn. Recruitment every single season has honestly become smarter. They just have so much depth now. You look at players like Yuri and Timber, Mosquera, even someone like Raya. I remember Arteta got so much backlash because he brought in Raya. Everybody was confused on why he gave up so quickly on Ramsdale. And yet you fast forward now, and Raya has been an upgrade in every single aspect of goalkeeping. He's better on the ball, he's a better shot stopper, he's more focused in games. And that was the story with a lot of Arteta's recruitment. Heavily criticized at the time, but now it's aged terrifically. People were confused why he brought in Mikel Merino, but anybody that's watched Arsenal games will tell you how important this guy is. Whether he was playing up front back when Arsenal didn't have a striker, or whether he was playing in the midfield, this guy was a beast, and he was a very underrated signing. What about Trossard? How many times has that guy come up with a clutch goal? Then of course now you have Zubamendi, who's completely revolutionized the midfield. You have Ricardo Calafiori. Remember when everybody used to make fun of Arteta and Arsenal for signing defenders? Yeah, now they have one of the best defenses in all of Europe. Meanwhile, it seems like every other top team is struggling to not concede. And then of course Arteta developed the existing guys. Saka went from a left back to one of the best right wingers in the world. Odegaard went from a failed wonder kid to a fantastic number 10. Even Martinelli, despite being up and down sometimes, has gone better individually. So these Arsenal guys, they're not just exciting kids anymore. They are a hungry squad. Now, many people like myself thought the 2024-2025 season would have been their year. City were weakened, Liverpool were going through a transition. Unfortunately, they finished second again. 3 straight seasons as runners-up, which, to be honest with you, all jokes aside, is pretty impressive on its own, but it's also quite painful. So for those who were criticizing Arteta saying that he needs to win a title, I think that was a fair piece of criticism. You heard Jamie Carragher talking about it, Thierry Henry. But that season, once again, despite the second place, we saw progress because Arsenal made their biggest statement in Europe in years. In the quarterfinals, they destroyed Real Madrid. And I don't care what people say, whether you want to say that Real Madrid were not good that season, that Arsenal should have won, it doesn't matter. Because a few years ago, Arsenal would have gone dominated by a team with Vini, Bellingham, Mbappe. And as we have all seen with Real Madrid, their domestic form means nothing when they go into the Champions League. So anybody that tries to downplay that Arsenal performance, just laugh at them because they're just haters. Arsenal destroyed Real Madrid across both legs, and it was fantastic to watch. They played like a veteran side, very patient, organized. I mean, Madrid couldn't even sniff a goal in their own stadium. The true Arsenal fans who watch this club get spanked over and over in Europe will tell you how much progress they had made to come out and beat the giants of that competition 5-1. It was a performance that showed that Arsenal aren't just talented, but they're actually very dangerous. And who knows, if Saka finishes that opportunity against PSG, or if that Odegaard shot goes in, the Gunners could have been in the final. And again, people will laugh at the runners-up position 3 seasons in a row, but look at what's happening to Liverpool now. They won the Premier League, and now they're doing terrible. This summer though, Arsenal showed that they had learned from their mistakes. They added more depth to the squad while also increasing the quality. They brought in Martin Zubamendi to have better midfielder. Now Rice can push forward and they get even more out of him. They brought in Nona Madueke, who even I thought was an overpay, but it solved one of their biggest issues. Now Saka has a backup. We saw it early in the season when Saka was out, Madueke took over in that right wing position. Then of course they brought in Mosquera, who despite being so young has been incredible whenever he's been needed. Then they brought in Victor Gyökeres. Finally they have a number 9. Then you have Christian Norgard. How about Piero, who adds even more quality and depth to the back line? And then of course, how can I forget Eberiche Eze, a player who whenever I've seen this guy play for the Gunners, he just elevates them to another level. This was a very important transfer window and it was calculated. Every signing had a purpose. Arteta was building a squad that could survive injuries this time, a squad that he could actually rotate properly and adapt mid-game. Liverpool were seen as the preseason favorites, but you could tell that Arsenal meant business. And what made Arsenal's transfer window even better was that they didn't lose any good players. Liverpool brought in a ton of new guys, but they lost a lot of the established guys that helped them win the Premier League. That's not the case for Arsenal. Every single year they've been slowly adding. How he's transformed Arsenal has been incredible. And you have to look at how the criticism around him has developed. In the beginning, they thought that this guy should be sacked. Now they're complaining that Arsenal scored too much off set pieces. If that doesn't show you the progress that this club has taken, then I don't know what will. And this season, we have seen them get better and better. Against Manchester United, they won 1-0, but it was an underwhelming performance. Then when they lost to Liverpool off that Szoboszlai free kick, people thought they were done. I think they did start the season a little bit too safe. Arteta played a bit too conservative in the big games, but I think he learned from those mistakes. That's why you're seeing more attacking lineup, because Arsenal have too much quality now to not play entertaining football. And I get it. Arteta doesn't want a repeat of what happened in the 2022-2023 season. Back then, Arsenal went into big games playing very free-flowing open football, and unfortunately they got punished. In fact, I think City spanking them that season is one of the biggest reasons why Arteta became so much more pragmatic. But the thing is, their defense is already good. They can afford to take more risks, and I think Arteta has noticed that. That's why you're seeing better lineups where Eze's on the pitch with other attacking players. Arteta's realized he doesn't have to play the most defensive midfield trio possible to not concede. And now that the Gunners are finding their rhythm, they look so strong both in Europe and in the league. Even when injuries have hit hard, like Odegaard constantly being out, Jesus and Havertz who were out for a very long time, it hasn't derailed their season. In previous seasons, one injury like the one to Odegaard would have completely disrupted their momentum. Now though, they just get on with it. Oh, this guy's out, someone else can step in and take his position. It's okay if they're scoring from set pieces. You're seeing the entire league transition in that direction. But if they can have more creativity in open play, there's not a single team in the Premier League that's stopping them, because they already control everything. They already suffocate teams without the ball. They just need to be that little bit more creative when they have the ball, because realistically they have everything. Before, you could argue that Arsenal can't win ugly games. Well, they can do that now. They can grind out results when they have to. Back then, they would say that Arsenal can't counter properly. Now they're lethal on the counters. Then they said that they would crumble in the last 10 minutes. That's not the case now. If Arsenal take the lead, you're not touching the ball. And that evolution of control speaks volumes about Arteta's coaching. Arsenal don't just hold possession for the sake of possession. They control space, not just the ball. The football is less about looking pretty and more about suffocating teams. It seems like all the lessons they've had from the previous crumbles, they've learned. And Arteta has taken all that information, plus the smart recruitment, and this is finally his team. This is their moment. Before, the critics would say that Arteta's overcoaching, that he suffocated their creativity. But you don't see that as much now. And when you have Eze, you have Rice, you have Saka, you have Odegaard when he's healthy, your attack should be just fine. There's a whole section of Arsenal fans that are going to be out of business because their whole channel and social media accounts were built on criticizing Arteta. Then the pundits who mock the process, the ones who said Arteta should be sacked, they're now the same people calling Arsenal the most complete team in England. That's football for you. The opinions just follow the results. The good thing is that this version of Arsenal isn't chasing validation. They're just chasing wins. They're no longer obsessed with proving people wrong. They're too busy focusing on getting the results. This is the Arsenal team that Arteta had promised from day one. A team that can control games, dictate the tempo, but also have the mental strength to push through any situation. Arteta has already silenced the pundits. He's already silenced everybody that said he wasn't fit for this job. Now there's one guy who always believed in Arteta no matter the results, and that was Pep Guardiola. To see how correct Pep was in his prediction about Arteta's managerial career, you have to check out this video right here.